In the world today, there is no trust or little trust, and governance, especially governance of the world, is not good. We have, in fact, made a mess of the world. 2 millennium of experience and mountains of knowledge have not made us much more capable at managing our affairs than Stone Age people. In every part of the world, no one is free. Fear rules the world. With the onset of this Third World War, the world is in a state of turmoil. We now live in fear. Even the rich are not as prosperous anymore, while the poor are actually poorer. We have not made such a good job managing the global village of ours. There is no trust and no good governance. So how do we create trust and good governance in the new era? I don't think it can be done by seeking for a military defeat of the enemy and forcing them to submit. The forces against the axis of evil are not going to win because the target is wrong. All that can happen if they are defeated is to create more anger and a call for more revenge and retaliation by the people who are incensed by the injustice they believe they are experiencing. On the other hand, the other side are not going to win either. The enemy is just too big and too powerful. The only solution is through compromise.
The Prime Minister raised a number of very interesting issues, but I don't think that, from my point of view, looking at it as an American, looking at it as someone who I suppose is in the position of being the representative of the big power, as he said, it's not a question of revenge. It's not a question of domination. It's not a question of equating, again, the very important project of trying to raise up standards of living in countries throughout the globe. The terrorist threat is one that we view as one which does significantly jeopardize all freedom-loving people, and we view it very differently than the issue of economic development. So your question is, can we restore that trust? Yes, we can build on that trust, and the way to do it is very simple, and we all know what it is, and your survey indicates that, which is honesty. Honesty was by far the #1 thing that people referred to when they said why they trusted an institution, whether it was a religious institution or governmental or private sector or NGO. On the other side, the reason they distrusted, the primary reason was because leaders said one thing and did another. So trust is like building a house, a block. One block at a time. You have to build trust over time. And when the trust falls apart, the roof falls in. You mentioned there will be other countries in any coalition that might move forward, but we would far prefer it to be with the United Nations. But if the President and his team determine that at the end of the day, it is necessary to be able to disarm Iraq and to enforce the United Nations' own resolutions to move to that next step, I think the Republicans in Congress will be quite supportive.
We're talking about values. We are talking about justice. We're talking about integrity, and the word integrity has come out very strongly. We're talking about human rights and all this kind of thing. Now, in my country, when I hear the word distrust or trust, the thing I don't trust is trust. I trust people. First of all, trust has to be earned. Trust springs from a relationship, good relationship. And so it's earned. If I went up to somebody here, a stranger, said, "Do you trust me?" They would say, "Of course not. I don't know you." So it's going to come out of earning something. You've got to earn the deed to be trusted. Secondly, it's a two-way relationship. It's a partnership. If I were a business leader, then my challenge is to build good businesses, not merely successful businesses, around the world that has a human heart to it and a human face. So you've got to be concerned for the local. Therefore, as a business leader, you've got to listen to the alternative voices coming out of Porto Alegre.
From the business perspective, particularly on the U.S., we've had some people that have done some very wrong things, and they must pay the consequences. I have confidence in the U.S. system. They will pay the consequences. And I have confidence that we are making adjustments with quick actions by our leadership and government to put different controls, different sets of transparencies, which I've heard talked about, and it was moved very quickly. I think we're doing the right things. The question that must be asked first is, who are the stakeholders in business? I believe, particularly in the U.S., but not alone in the U.S., people have focused on the shareholder and thought they were the only stakeholder, and that's where we've gone off track. And our company, since I started 33 years ago, I learned it's our customers, because we have an obligation to them to give them good products and do what we say we'll do. It's our employees, because the people you trust in DuPont or any other company is our employees, not the structures and the buildings and our patent estate. And it's the communities. It's the local communities where we have a facility. It's the national community. It's the international community. And we have an obligation to operate to exactly the same standard of ethics anywhere in the world, no exception. I'm very proud of my company, and the companies I work with do the same thing.
Human Rights Watch, my organization, came out with a global survey just last week in which we found a radical deterioration in trust, particularly of America, when it comes to the dominant issue of our time, the campaign against terrorism. We did not find a difference with respect to the goal. That is to say, the outpouring of outrage a year ago after September 11th, the broad consensus that something needed to be done to stop terrorism, that it was an affront to our most basic values, that remains. The desire for American leadership remains. It was not disquiet about American power per se that had led to this decline in trust. Rather, it was the way in which America has pursued the campaign against terrorism. Its unwillingness to be bound by the very principles that it says that it's upholding. The campaign against terrorism is not going to be won simply from Washington. It needs the support of people around the world to identify terrorists, to cooperate with law enforcement officials, to dissuade people from joining the terrorists. But if instead people are alienated from the campaign because they see a double standard, because they see hypocrisy, because they see an unwillingness to comply with the standards that the U.S. professes, that is going to devastate the campaign against terrorism. That is a gift to the terrorists. We need America's voice on human rights. We need to win the battle against terrorism. And we need to reaffirm international law and international standards, which, after all, America helped to build. It is not in anyone's interest, let alone the interest of the superpower, to return to a pre-modern Hobbesian era where these laws are seen as the province of others, but not of the most powerful. That will undermine the legal order, the global order that we have so carefully constructed over the last half century. So this lack of trust is one of profound concern. It is not irreparable, but it will require even the superpower living according to the principles that it preaches. Some have learned the lesson the hard way and have gotten a corporate black eye before they changed. But today, virtually every brand name corporation has voluntary principles that it seeks to abide by. I see two challenges going forward. One is making those broad principles more concrete. For example, what does it mean to be against gender discrimination and to work in Saudi Arabia? What does it mean to uphold the right to form a labor union and to work in China? What does it mean to ensure that one is not going to be complicit in violent abuses and then try to protect your pipeline or your plant in a place like Colombia? These are difficult questions, but we need to bring the sort of broad principles down to these concrete areas to make the next step forward. And then, David, the issue you're alluding to, I think we need to move beyond voluntary principles. We need enforceable standards.
Patty Ruiz, who works in Sierra Gorda, Mexico, is going to celebrate a little bit our presence here by singing, and I hope that that look so serious and that can explain very well such opposite positions, we can at least sing together.
Rézala junto a mí por esas tierras muertas de sed. Amén. 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 Amén.